Around 1750 BCE, a Sumerian scribe was pressing cuneiform signs into wet clay. The story he recorded was already several centuries old, a real thriller about a goddess who decided to walk voluntarily into the realm of the dead, a place from which there is no return. She knew the rules perfectly and understood exactly what awaited her. Her name was Inanna, the undisputed rock star of the Mesopotamian pantheon, goddess of love, war, and fertility. But why did she do it? And the Sumerians had an answer that probably won't comfort you, because this story isn't just about ancient tablets. It's about every single one of us. 4,000 years ago, southern Mesopotamia was home to one of the most advanced civilizations on Earth, the Sumerians. These guys were the first to build huge cities out of fired brick, complete with multi-story ziggurats. They invented writing and had a god for literally every occasion in life, and Inanna stood out from all the rest. She was the daughter of the moon god and granddaughter of the sky god, but her status wasn't just about family connections. Inanna was the very embodiment of life's raw drive. In her, sex, war, power, and ambition all mixed together. The Sumerians saw no contradiction in this. For them, the fury of battle and the passion in bed were simply two sides of the same wild energy, and that energy was called Inanna. Her cult was everywhere. Temples to her stood in every city. Kings literally fought for the right to be called her favorite because their legitimacy depended on whether the goddess had liked them or not. The first poets in history wrote about her. People swore by her name and trembled at the thought of her wrath. Inanna had no breaks. She could shower you with gifts one moment and grind you into dust the next, simply because her mood had changed. But why would a goddess who already had everything suddenly turn her gaze from heaven even deeper into the Kur, the Sumerian Underworld, from which no one returns? There are several versions, each compelling in its own way. The official version says Inanna went to attend the funeral of the Bull of Heaven, the husband of her older sister, Ereshkigal, ruler of the underworld. It's a neat story, except for one small detail. Inanna herself was the reason the bull was killed. The second version is about greed and ambition. Inanna controlled everything on Earth except death, and that was the one territory where her power didn't reach. She was the type who wouldn't rest until she owned the entire map. But there's a third, deeper idea. She went because she had already learned everything her world could teach her. Some truths can only be understood when you hit rock bottom and lose everything. Inanna knew perfectly well she was entering a place with no exit. Still, she had no intention of staying. Before leaving, she went to her faithful servant Ninshabur and said, "If I don't return in 3 days, run to the god Enki. Only that sly old fox knows how to bring me back." She had prepared an evacuation plan. Finally, she put on all her most prestigious regalia: crown, lapis lazuli rod, gold, royal robes. Every single piece was not just jewelry, it was future payment. And dressed like this, she took her first step downward. The Sumerian underworld wasn't a fiery hell with demons roasting sinners. There was no concept of punishment. It was simply the place where everyone eventually ended up, regardless of how they had lived. No light, no food, only dust, silence, and absolute finality. At the entrance to the lower world, Inanna faced a brutal survival challenge. The rules were simple: 7 gates. At each one, a guard stripped away one of her possessions. First the crown,
then earrings, beads, breastplate, bracelets, and rod. At the final gate, they took her clothes, so the Queen of Heaven entered the throne room completely naked.
Ereshkigal, ruler of the underworld and Inanna's older sister, is perhaps the most tragic figure in the entire myth. Long ago, their father simply divided the domains. Inanna received light, love, war, and eternal celebration. Ereshkigal was sent to the basement to guard dust and the dead. She spent eternity in solitude in the one place no one ever wants to visit. So, when the naked Inanna finally reached the throne room, Ereshkigal didn't throw a victory party. She simply looked at her. And in that gaze, the texts say, a storm raged.
Ereshkigal didn't even need to pronounce a sentence. One deadly look was enough, and life left Inanna's body. The 7 judges of the underworld merely confirmed the obvious. They hung the goddess's body on a rusty hook. The embodiment of drive and sex now dangled in the darkness like a slab of meat in a slaughterhouse.
3 days and 3 nights passed. Up above, everything froze. Animals stopped mating, crops stopped growing, people fell into apathy. Ninshubur, the goddess's loyal right hand, rushed to Enki. Enki, god of wisdom and creativity, was the one who always found a way out in Sumerian myths. He had created humanity and was pretty much the only one in the whole divine crew who actually cared what happened to the world. When Ninshubur told him everything, Enki realized that if they did nothing, the world was finished. And what do you think Enki did? He simply scraped the dirt from under his own fingernails and molded 2 sexless creatures, 2 demons. That was the genius of it. The underworld had the strictest face control imaginable, but it was designed for men, women, gods, and humans. These 2 didn't fit any category. They slipped past the guards like a system bug and went completely unnoticed. Enki gave them 2 artifacts, the plant of life and the water of life, and 1 clear instruction. Under no circumstances accept any gift from Ereshkigal except the body of Inanna. When they reached the throne room, Ereshkigal was lying on the ground, howling in pain. The death of the goddess of fertility had struck her too. She was seized by birth pangs that would not end. The demons eased her suffering. In gratitude, Ereshkigal offered them any gift they wanted. They immediately pointed at Inanna's body. The goddess of death had given her word. She had no choice. The sexless being sprinkled Inanna with the plant of life and poured the water of life over her, and her eyes opened. Inanna was alive again. But there was a price. The law of the underworld was clear. If someone leaves, someone else must take their place. A soul for a soul. The balance must be maintained. Inanna agreed. She began her ascent, accompanied by a convoy of underworld demons who were supposed to claim a substitute. But who? She couldn't give them Ninshubur, who had saved her. She couldn't give them her faithful servants who had mourned her. What now? Finally, they reached Uruk. Inanna saw an apple tree, and beneath it, her husband, the shepherd god Dumuzid. While his wife had been hanging on a hook for 3 days, this guy hadn't grieved at all. He sat on the throne in spotless clothes, surrounded by wine, music, and a cheerful company. Dumuzid was the only one who hadn't felt her absence. He was the perfect candidate. She pointed at him and told the demons, "Take him." Dumuzid, of course, didn't want to be the replacement. He turned into a snake and tried to escape. The demons chased him across the land until they finally smoked him out of his sister Geshtinanna's house and dragged him down. Geshtinanna begged,
take me instead of my brother?" Inanna appreciated the gesture. In the end, they made a deal. 6 months each. 6 months Dumuzid spends below, 6 months his sister takes his place.
That is how the Sumerians explained the changing seasons. When the shepherd god Dumuzid descends, winter comes. Everything withers and freezes. When he returns, nature comes back to life. And Inanna now watches over this balance, because she is the only one who has personally learned the rules of life and death. The cycle is running, and it still works today. The main insight here isn't just the change of seasons. It's that life without death is a boring, one-sided story. Inanna returned to the surface with crystal clarity. For every breath taken in the upper world, someone pays in the lower one. This isn't a fairy tale about good and evil. It's the harsh mathematics of existence. Everything has a price, and sometimes that price is you. This was Age of Myths. See you in the next ancient legend.